Okay folks, now we've got things a little bit tidier, we can now begin to start putting some other detail and definition in. The first thing we're going to do is touch up the moon. Now it's all good and dry. Just come in with a little liner brush here and just something like that. Okay, and then we're going to come in with a dear old 11mm brush, a little bit of black paint, a little touch of white. Okay, and for this, make sure that you haven't got too much paint, but make sure your bristles are sticking together. And you're just going to use the right corner and just create some little circles. And if you've left your canvas to dry, this will actually go on. It'll go on easier, but it probably won't blend in as much. Okay, so you just need to keep coming back in and reloading the brush, that's important. Okay, I'm just going to touch up, I want to touch around this side of the moon as well. Okay. And then the idea is the further on away it gets, the darker the clouds will become. Okay, I'm just going to roll these clouds, and if your paint is a little bit too dry, like mine is a little bit here, just touch into a little bit of water. Key word, little. Okay, now see how much easier that just flows across. You don't want to lose all your clouds, so you want to think about it almost one at a time. Okay, you can cover the sky, you just want to do it one at a time. And that's really, really important, really key. Okay, so I'm just going to blend on over, something like that, and then touch around the side of your canvas as well. That's all important. Okay, then you're going to wash your brush, and I'm going to use a 1/4 inch brush. Use that brush into some black paint. Now make sure you come into plenty of black paint, because you want to create a nice little ridge, as you can see there, on the end of your brush. So the way to do that is you're going to go through, turn the brush, go through again, and I would do this probably twice on both sides. Okay. Then we're going to create some big old mountains up here. And just create. And all you're doing is just essentially wiggling the brush. Okay. I'm just going to pull all these things in. Now, as I said before, the reason that we have the wolf cutouts is because we're going to have wolf silhouettes in this painting. And the easiest way I find, rather than painting everything in by hand and making it really difficult for yourself, if you cut out the silhouette, stick it on with masking tape, you've got a beautiful layout there, and then you can paint right over the top, do the entire painting, at the end, take off the cutouts, and then you have got perfect little ships for the wolf. Okay, then I'm going to come in with a large filbert brush. We're going to touch into some white paint. Okay, so make sure you've got plenty of paint there. And then I'm going to do the right side of the mountain. Just come in and pull on down. Now you want to try and do this quite lightly, because that's how that snow is going to break. Okay, so just pulling down and around. So, come up. And the more you do this, the more you practice it, the more you're going to be able to get that pull in your mountains. Okay, same over this side. Yeah, something like that. Then what you're going to do, without cleaning the brush, you're going to go into a little bit of blue, a little bit of black. You just want to grey up a little bit. Okay. It's almost like a cold blue, something like that. And just down the other side of the mountain, you're going to take your brush and just pull. Just pull, something like that. Okay, and my little silhouette is sticking up a little bit there, but that's okay. And just pull. And it's just getting under those angles as well. That's the real key part in doing this, just pulling under those angles. Okay. There you go, and then just clean your brush. That's simple, we've got those beautiful, beautiful little mountains. Okay, we're going to come back in with the 1/4" brush, a little bit of titanium white, just on the corner of the brush. Now the same way that we made the clouds, the same way that we're going to make mist. You're going to tap the brush onto your palette because you want a very, very small amount of white, and you're going to push quite hard. I'm just going to put the base layer on. I'm just going to make sure that my silhouettes stay down for this. So I'm going to put that on and then go over it again. And you're going to push really hard. Something like that. And then just fluff it nicely. Nice and gentle. A lot of that you won't see. You're probably just seeing a bit of the top line by the time it's done, because it's what we're going to use to be a separator. Okay, then we're going to come in with a fan brush. Here's a little fella here. Into a little bit of black. Now make sure that your fan brush is really loaded. So the same way that we did the mountains. Okay, now on this, just dabbing the ends, make sure it's well loaded. Okay. And then we're going to come in and leave a gap probably about halfway. Okay, so we're just going to come in here. And all we're doing is just little taps. Okay, go over the silhouettes. Okay, now our castle's going to roughly be in the middle, so we're just going to leave a rough gap. Okay, and then just again, just creating these little trees way, way away in the distance. Okay, something like this. Okay, and then just give a wee pull at the bottom just to take off all that excess paint. Okay, something like that. That's around the side of the painting as well. Nice and simple. Okay. Clean the fan brush. You will spend most of your artistic life cleaning brushes and waiting for paint to dry. Then we're going to come back in with the 1/4" brush, and this middle area we're going to mist quite a lot. Okay, so I'm just going to create little circles. Okay, clean and dry the brush. Make sure it's really good and dry. And then you can come in with a bigger brush to do this if you want. good dry clean brush. And just blend that on in. Again, that's going to be a separator, so don't worry too much about that. Something like that. Okay. We're going to use a little filbert brush here. If you don't have a little filbert brush, use the next best thing. And then we're going to start building in these mountain shapes, oh sorry, these castle shapes. So a little bit of water into your black paint. And then rather than thinking these are solid shapes, I want you to essentially just start putting your paintbrush on and just keep moving it across. You'll see what I mean in a second. You've got your top layer of mist here. I'm going to start a little bit further on down. And it doesn't want to be a particularly big castle because it is a way in the distance. But just creating these little basic shapes. That's what we're after. And that's the importance. Okay, and then some of these peaks can be a little bit bigger and some can be a little bit smaller, fading off into the distance. Okay, and then you're just going to go side to side and fill some of these gaps in. Yeah, something like that. So we've got a basic shape over here. Okay, now we want the main body of the castle, which I'm going to put roughly in the middle. And this is one that you can do as a solid shape. I'll just paint it black. Okay, and then we're going to load the brush with a little bit of white paint. Make sure obviously you clean the brush, and then so from here, and then we're going to do a few zigzags. Okay, just across, and leave an ample gap in between. And we're just going to bring this over here. Clean the brush. Then you're going to come in with black paint and a touch of white, so it wants to be grey just so you can see it. And then underneath each line I want you to pull straight down until you hit the top of the next line, but don't go over it. Okay, and that's going to create this beautiful 3D, if you pull some of that white in it's okay, but that's going to create this beautiful 3D pathway. Just like that. And just put these things in. Okay, so now we've got the outline of our castle done, we can start putting in some more of this closer stuff. But what we're going to do first is just to create a little bit of mist just under this base here, and that means that's going to get pushed way into the distance, and it also means then that we can pull other things forward. Just going to mist up this little wolf here. Okay, so just mist that up. You know, we don't know where it goes. Maybe it comes all the way over here. But when we're starting to put trees in and things, that's going to be really, really important to think about, because obviously as things is coming closer to you, you want more detail and distance to push this further on back. So a lot of the stuff that we're now going to be focusing on is actually going to be in the foreground. So we're going to take a little bit of, let's see, we'd have more darker area over here. So if I was to stop the mist roughly about there, and this is where the wolves are going to be, and sitting over here, but we can build all this area in. Okay, so let's begin thinking about putting in some land. That would be, I think, a good place to start. And bringing this forward. Sometimes you've got to evaluate paintings as you're actually just looking at them. First thing I want to do while I see it is come in with a tiny liner brush. Just bring this castle or this pathway up a little bit further. Again, so it's just pushing it way into the distance. And then when we come back in later to add detail into that, that will really, really help. Something like that. And again, just pull. Yeah, just pull down. Okay. Okay, from there, we know we want trees in there, that's important. We want to build something where these walls are going to be. Okay, so what I think we need to do is start adding some rocks in. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to use a long handle filbert brush, black on one side and white on the other. So just like that, it's the two-tone technique. And then we're going to angle the rocks as if they're coming over. Okay, and then you're just going to essentially just create doing these little rocks, and you're just going to turn the brush slightly as you're pulling these things over. You can just have something like that. It's an easy way to do a lot of little rocks really, really quickly. And the same over this side. Now if you struggle, as you can see here, getting the white just to shine a little bit, you just go and pull up. Okay, I'm going to fill that area on in, and that's where the wolf is going to be. Now in the original painting we actually had a waterfall that was coming over here. It is possible to put that in, but it needs to make sense as to why it would be there. So while I'm working on that, well, we've got this two-tone technique, we're going to stick some of these trees in. So you're going to white on one side, black on the other, same as before, and then I'm going to pull up. We're going to have some of these big old trees. Big old trees that's just going to pull in quite nicely. Remember, your darkest area wants to be the area that's facing away from the moon. Okay, and we have a tree. So I've got one tree there, over here. And a tree that's coming out. And I'm going to take all the card off and everything, then I can build more of these things in. And you can even push the wolves further on back just by bringing the tree down further. Something like that. Okay, you're going to have a tree. That's going to come over here. Now see how I'm doing this? It's all in one smooth stroke, and that is really, really important. Okay. So I'm going to lift this up and over the lip. Now you've got to be careful when painting in this style because you don't want your canvas to fall over. Okay. See, there is part of me that wants to go ahead and paint the waterfall, but there's another part of me that's like, would it make sense for it to be there, or would it make sense just to have this path coming on right the way over? And either way, you know, I think it'd make more sense for the path to be coming on over, so that's what I'm going to do. As much as I don't want to, but it is what makes sense. Okay, so pull this over. Sorry, we're going to come in with white paint just to do the top part of the ledge. And you'll find that sometimes you start doing something, you think, yeah, absolutely another direction I'm going with this. And then other times you're like, no, maybe I have no idea. Okay. I mean, a lot of people would also say, why is it so zigzag? We can paint it, we'll see how it looks, and then we can always change it later on if we're not happy with it. But again, it's another optical illusion. It gives you the illusion that there is, you know, a lot more going on than perhaps there is. So we would tighten this line up a little bit more. Just pull some of these things in. And maybe it's that the path's coming down here and the wolves are actually higher up, which would make a ton of sense. Last one, we're just going to fill in that area. Okay, and then come into a little bit of white, a little bit of black. And then again, paint these things. If we paint them over the top, it actually makes it look like it's disappearing underneath. Picked into a little bit of blue there. Now I would say we could put a big tree that's coming up, but again, you know, would it make sense? Again, if the wolves are there and you can't see their faces, that's... Sometimes these are the things that you've really got to think about and contend with. A tree coming up here. Because when you've got something going on in a painting, sometimes it can be really difficult to know where that space is. And this is where your spatial awareness comes in, which is something that I teach on a lot. Okay, so if I was to cut out some of this land now, and start to paint the wolf in. Now you start to see how it's going underneath. And the same over here. Little lay of the land that's coming over here. So now you can start to see how that's sinking more into the ground. And then we just want to colour, paint in all that little detail. Okay. When it's dry, then we'll be able to add in more of the detail and depth and everything, but for now that's looking like a fairly good starting point. And now we're just going to angle these things a little bit, just so as we can see we don't forget where everything's going. Because that is one of the drawbacks sometimes when you're doing this kind of artwork. You can have a great idea and then forget where you've put it. So essentially, what we're doing here is you've got the castle on the path that's coming down here, and then you're having this land where the wolves are above the path. It's essentially like the wolves are just looking on down. And again, it all comes back down to angles. They are the really key thing in all of this. Your angles are so key. You've been able to do it, not only being able to do it, but being able to do it right. And again, just pull where you've got the ends of these cliffs. And the same over here. And then this last one, just there. And then when it dries, as I say, we can add in all of that detail, but that's starting to look good now. Makes a little bit more sense as to why we would have certain things in certain places and not in others. Just fill in a little bit more path colour, just so as I can get the angles right on that as well. Just something like that. Now we can stick in a tree or two. So I'm going to come in with a little filbert brush, black on one side, white on the other, same as before. And then just come up here. And again, you can see I'm doing it all in one smooth, long stroke. I'm not, putting in bits, and pulling out bits. It's all in one smooth stroke. And then if you want, you can stick an old branch that's going up there. Something like that. Okay, but it is important because it does really affect how coming up with a rounded brush or a liner brush. And I think you like this. This is the last part of this first section. And then all we're going to do, start from your tree and just create these little branches. They're coming off and over and going in a wild variety of directions. Okay. And then just with your finger, just pull down. So you don't have big smears of paint all over the place. I'll just run through the corner of the moon maybe. But the key is make sure your paint is good and wet. This will not work as well with a dry paint, so make sure you put plenty of water or turpentine if you're using oil paint into your paint. And again, if you want to create branches like what we were doing before with the white technique, just do the same thing, white on one side, black on the other. And then just pull up. Some of them naturally would have some of that moonlight hitting, others wouldn't. So. Something like that. And then when it's dry, or drier, you can begin putting in some of that smaller definition, little liner brush. And I'll quickly show you this now. Water, black paint. Okay, and then just the exact same thing. But these you can do as it really thinner, a lot quicker as well. Once that's done, just leave it to dry. I'll try not to cover up all the moon. It's tempting because it looks really cool when you've got that beautiful effect there. But yeah. Put as many or as little. I like to have quite a lot of branches because there would be a lot of branches in this old forest. It is winter time. And you see, these are just wiggles and squiggles. That's all I'm doing. There is literally no real finesse. As long as you're just following them over and out. There you go, something like that. Well guys, I hope you really enjoyed part 1 of our painting tutorial. Please feel free to like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also head over to johnmorrisartfromtheheart.com for more exclusive tutorials and more giveaways and more freebies and all sorts of wonderful things that are coming that way. Subscribe, share, like, head over to johnmorrisartfromtheheart.com. Have a great day. I'll catch you soon.